Alright guys, welcome to another map overview slash rundown. This is Rialto, the new Escort map on the PTR. And I haven't really looked at it, so I figured I'd make a video and talk about some of my kind of first kind of thoughts about it. First things first, when we look at the entrance or the exit to the attacking spawn, can obviously notice that it's very narrow. What I do like is that there are multiple ways to attack from. They don't give you, well, they do give you a little bit of a spawn advantage, so you can kind of come out this way and cut this way and kind of give you a different lane of attack, which is always nice. And I think this has been a criticism for some of the maps for a long time, is that it's just been very linear. It's nice to see that, especially on this first point, that there's a little bit more of a variation. But yeah, I mean, the map's beautiful. It really uses the assets from the PvE content quite well. This mega health pack is a little bit concerning, to be honest with you. I wonder if you on defense, if you can take an early defense up on this high ground and be able to defend here and be able to rotate down quite safely, because it's difficult for a tracer to be able to blink across this. So far, I'm not getting very tracery vibes, if that makes sense. I think Genji here would be probably your better flanker, because he has the vertical mobility to be able to traverse these high grounds. He still has the lateral mobility to be able to go left to right, across these little ponds and hop off the boats and whatnot. There was a point I was gonna make, and I, for whatever reason, cannot think of it now. Oh, Farah. That's what I was looking at. So each map, obviously I did Blizzard World. The last time, and I still think that Farah could be used on there in a very niche sense, obviously as a pocket pick for some teams. But here I actually think she could be really good, at least on this first kind of half. It looks fairly defensible. She has a lot of little holes to peek around, so I think Farah on attack actually would be pretty strong. Especially because you can come out this angle, right? Let's say they are holding, I don't know, it's hard to say from defensively, because I'm kind of looking at it from an attacker's point of view. But, Farah spawns, Farah Mercy pop out of here, they fly around this way, and they just use this building as cover. And you can get a lot done if they're trying to take an early defense. As we progress through the map, I'm sure we'll have more thoughts on that as the point progresses. But again, let's not take too long on this first little section. Let's check out this building. What's this about? What are you about, Mr. Hotel? What are you about? How swanky. So we got a mini. It's fine. It's not a mega, which would be kind of odd, seeing how there's mega over here as well. Again, very narrow. Again, I think that's something that a lot of what people have been saying, at least that's what I've been hearing from people, is that the map is very Kings Rowy, and I definitely definitely see that. But do these exit? Okay, that exits there. Where do you exit over here, buddy? Where do you come out? Okay. So this kind of stage right spawn for attackers does give you a little bit of a nice flanking motion, because if we're playing under the kind of understanding that maybe there will be a defense set up somewhere on these two little sides, you do kind of circumvent them coming out of this way. So maybe you could have like a cheeky widow angle this way. Excuse me. If at all possible, you could send somebody out here to try and pick people off. This area is quite open, which is strange. Let me check where these points end at. Oh, it's not going to show me. Beautiful. I'll have to play with that on my own. This looks like a checkpoint. I'm not sure though. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if this is actually a checkpoint. Something that Blizzard's been doing recently is adding health packs out in the open. There was one on my Blizzard World review that I was really questionable on, that could be a mega, and I still think it could be. And I think this kind of health pack design mimics the one on Blizzard World Point B quite well, where you do have to commit to this open area, and if you do, you are rewarded with the mega health pack, which I think is smart, because you actually have to commit to being kind of out in the open to get that healing. And if you do take that risk, or you take that calculated risk, you get the massive health increase, which is nice. But yeah, this looks like a checkpoint. I believe this is the checkpoint right here. This actually looks fairly good for dive, obviously. Key points. Actually, is it? It gives you space to brawl. You're probably going to want to come from this high ground. And there's no good like cover for Winston, to be fair. Maybe holding this angle, this corner. That's something that I've noticed a lot on maps, is that teams will hold specific corners. Volskaya has its corner on point A. If you are kind of running out of spawn as attack, and you run through main and you run left a little bit around the pillbox area, if you want to call it that, there's a corner there that teams will anchor on and will pivot off of, and that's their kind of anchor point for the attack, similar to Junkertown. There is on point A in Junkertown, there's a little box setup that you see Arisas try to hold and pivot from quite a bit, and if you that's like the kind of key point on the map that you want to control. So if we kind of play with that in our minds, and we have to look for, what is the angle, or what's the kind of pivot point for this specific section of the map, I would say this area right here, but there's not enough cover. For defense, this looks halfway decent. Obviously you have the mini, and you have a decent amount of cover, high ground access, which is great. Again, Widow's not bad here, actually. Is there an easy? Yeah, there is. You can easily get up here with hookshot and whatnot. Can you hookshot away anywhere? Yeah, you got a hookshot right back here. Yeah, I think this probably is just going to be a Widow map, to be honest with you. Especially on attack. Defense, if you can play Widow on attack, you probably can play Widow on defense as well. But dive nothing screams dive here for me. I'm assuming if you jump in the water, you probably die as well, as most games tend to do. But again, let's not dilly-dally around. I don't want to burn too much of your time. But obviously, thanks for sticking around if you have and listen to me ramble. Appreciate you. You're all beautiful people, and kiss your face. Mega mini. The health pack density on this map seems, I don't know, it seems like there's quite a bit, honestly. So you've got a mega there. You got a mini. I think you've got a mega over here. So that, to me, that seems very good for Sombra defense. Sombra on offense, especially when you have to contest high ground, is kind of difficult because you have to invest translocator or you have to be very coordinated with your team. So having a Sombra on defense here could actually be really strong with how many health packs that are around, especially towards the end of point A here. That could be a little scary. I think that's something that you might need to watch out for. Another thing that I've been kind of thinking of, and I think that Sideshow did a great job talking about in his analysis of Element Mystic, and I believe it was Kongdu, excuse me, was the use of Torbjorn to kind of barrier off certain choke points. Now, if, and only if, dive is run on this, I actually wouldn't mind to see like an Orisa Torb strat come out here, especially on point A, early point A, I should say, because there's not a ton of different ways to deal with it. Obviously, you could just run back and swap Pharah, which, you know, kind of screws you. But if you set up here, right, like, yes, Pharah can still mess with you, which maybe, you know, obviously I'm thinking on the fly here, you're kind of just getting unfiltered word vomit, so maybe that's not the best idea. But if you know that the enemy team does not have a great projectile player, a very strong projectile player, then maybe you could leverage that to your advantage. Again, very narrow, like incredibly narrow. This back channel is strange. Again, another health pack. I actually was looking at that and I thought it was a mega. I almost kind of think it should be a mega, to be honest with you. Like, take that mega, just move it back and just take out the health pack. Like, the health pack density on the end of point A is actually, like, surprisingly, like, stacked in their favor. I don't know if I like that. That's kind of scary. Anyways, I don't know if that's going to be a big deal or not, but let's go into point B. Again, I am just all kinds of goopy. Again, just very, very pretty map. Just quite gorgeous. A little bit more open than the first couple points, but high ground, very strong. You have quite a lot of cover to do a lot with. Again, you know, looking at it from an attacking point of view, Widow is great. You have a ton of different sight lines that you can kind of peek from. You can shoot to the other hotel. You can shoot along the payload track itself. It's either going to be very Widow-centric or very tanky. Like, I still think you could probably run quad tank here. This would be a map that I could see quad tank being run quite a bit, or maybe like triple tank soldier, very similar to what the MLG meta was, MLG 2016, MLG Vegas kind of era. Very similar to that kind of feel, if you remember back then. This is interesting. So this kind of breaks away from the narrowness of the map and opens it up a little bit more. Very strange. So from the map design perspective, it looks like they want you to hold here. So you aren't going to want to take too long of a contest on, like a late contest on point A, because you are going to want to control this hotel right here. This white kind of ivory hotel. Just the way that this kind of long ramp, like, once you lose this ramp, you probably lose the high ground in the hotel. Like, there isn't a ton of high ground to fight here. If you are running a little bit of slower composition into a dive, this area is going to be very difficult for you. And it looks like it's actually the end of point B, which is kind of short. If I'm, you know, understanding that this is the end of the point, which it could not be. It's a very short point, which is interesting. I wonder if there's and again, this is my kind of first look at this. I wonder if there's some sort of animation that the payload has to go through here that stalls it and makes it a little bit longer. But it is going to be a massive fight over this hotel. And once you lose this hotel, the defending team could just swap to dive, to be honest with you. Dive here would be really... Would it be really strong? I think it'd be stronger than most points on the map so far have been. But... Oh, can't go back there. Okay. But if you were going to see dive, it would be on this kind of harbor section to the end of point B. There are just so many different angles to hold. There's a ton of cover. You can hold here and dive over. You can hold here and peek out and poke and let your flanker set up and dive over. There isn't a ton of high ground you have to contest, and I think that's kind of a hard... That's one aspect that I think dive struggles with a little bit, is coordinating a very set dive onto a high ground. So obviously look at like Numbani, Point A. Teams have gotten very used to it because it's been in the map pool for so long, but it is just a very coordinated attack. And if it isn't, then you run the risk of getting full held. And then look at like Anubis A, right? Anubis A on attack. It's kind of a little bit more difficult to set up because you are trying to contest the enemy team who is situated on the high ground. But let me see the end. I believe this is probably the end. It's actually really pretty. Like, that's screenshot material, honestly. But I digress. Let's take a look at this. Again, screams Widow to me. Screams Widow quite a bit. Where do you go? Where do you go, stairs? Oh, it's just a straight shot to the point. This is Widow all day, every day. And the fact that you can grapple out this way is actually kind of disgusting. With the amount of maps that Widow's being used on currently, I wouldn't be surprised if she got a tone down. Not to make this a balanced discussion because I want to focus on the map here, but Widow is going to be real good on this map, I think. She doesn't need a ton of high ground to work with. Obviously, you do want high ground advantage, but these sight lines are just massive. You see directly onto the point. And even if it's not Widow, it could be a McCree again. Like, you have to fight into these incredibly narrow choke points. McCree, flashbang, you're going to have a bad time if you're trying to run anything that isn't, you know, some sort of slower moving composition. Obviously, dive probably will still be run on here. I just don't know how effective it'll be. I think teams are going to start off with dive just to try it out and just to kind of experiment, and then expand outwards. I do have to give it to Blizzard though, because this is actually a gorgeous top-down angle. Because there's a lack of buildings, this actually makes spectating like really nice. Like, that's just a nice, like, basically this is the whole point. Obviously you have to get it over the bridge here, and you can see over the buildings too. This is great. Like, there's so many nice sweeping. Oh, okay. We can't go that way. All right. That's cool. That should probably be fixed. But really nice so far. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but very narrow, very long and narrow. So, again, Widow, McCree, Soldier, slow comps. Junkrat, definitely. Because of these houses... actually, let's think about this. Let's start from the beginning and look at like Junkrat tire placements, because I think that's really what kind of seals the deal on a Junkrat map, is what your tire pathing could be, if that makes sense. And I don't know if these kind of borders or this edging on these buildings is going to mess with Junkrat tires at all. It would be interesting if it did. It might. But even if it does, I think that Junkrat probably still is pretty good. just because you can kind of like hop off the wall, and you can still climb these walls quite well. And there are like multiple areas of attack. If if the defense does want to hold early, you could send the tire that, through the canal this way, through the canal this way, up over and around, stuff like that. But yeah, so far, very narrow. I'm trying to think, is there any other, to be honest with you, and again, I probably will get quite a lot of hate from this. I guess we'll have to see. I'll hold off on my opinion until we see new Symmetra. But I wonder if Symmetra wouldn't be awful in here. Maybe that's a dumb idea because they're not running dive too much, and I think Symmetra's actually fairly good at like closing off choke points and really kind of making it hard for a Genji or a Tracer to just kind of run around uncontested. They always have to just check for turrets, and that obviously gives away your positioning quite a bit, because if the turret shoots something, you see that on your HUD, you can communicate with your teammates, and if your turret gets killed, same thing happens. You can kind of communicate positioning and all that jazz. But I guess we'll see, because we know that she's going to be getting a rework sometime soon. But overall, last quick rundown of the points. You're probably not going to see a ton of dive. The longer we see the map being played, the less dive I think is going to be played on it. Think MLG Vegas 2016. Think triple tank Soldier, triple tank McCree, maybe even a triple tank Genji. I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Philly Fusion pulled out the triple tank Genji. They have a player in Shadowburn that excelled at it during that era. So I wouldn't be too terribly shocked to see them pull out something like that. But again, very narrow. It's just what the map is. It's the theme of the map. It's very narrow. There are a few different angles that you can attack from. Very Widow-centric, very McCree Soldier-centric. Probably not a lot of Winston. D.Va probably. I don't think Blizzard can change much about, do much about D.Va without having to really look at her and rework her. But there again, if we see a lot of Reinhardt, Zarya definitely could come into the picture and be argued. So that is my first little bit of thoughts on Rialto. Hopefully I didn't completely butcher anything, and if I did, please feel free to leave it in the comments on how I messed up. So thanks again, guys, for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.